Touch7 has partnered with Remote Director to bring a soft proofing solution to the Touch7 product portfolio. And we're going to demonstrate why there is a need for a soft proofing solution. And most people may think that what you see in Photoshop or Illustrator or whatever your page layout program is correct for color when you've got a monitor that's been color calibrated, but that's not so when we're working with ECG, because extended gamut printing uses spot colors that are not replicated correctly inside either of those applications or any of the Adobe applications. So to explain this, we're going to go into Photoshop, we're going to open up an image, and we're then going to process that using the Touch7 Photo plugin. So the image is predominantly blue and orange, so I'm going to use an orange and a blue touch plate. You could use a violet or you could use a red touch plate. It's completely up to you depending upon your workflow. So I'm going to use the orange and blue, and that goes through, and we can now, if we want, we can modify these a little bit. I'm going to actually boost my orange up and my blue is okay. I'm going to convert my file to my Fogra 39 profile. So what I see on the screen now looks nice, but it's actually wrong. It's not the true color of what it will look like when it's printed off your press. So by switching these on and off, you'll see how the orange makes it go almost like a reddish color. So what we'll do is we'll then demonstrate how this actually visualizes in the real world. So I'm going to save that file. I'm just going to do this as a TIFF in this instance, and once I've saved my file, I'm then going to go into Illustrator and open up an artwork. So here's my original image. I'm going to replace that image with the TIFF file. So this is a like-for-like representation of what we saw in Photoshop. So again, to the normal user, you might think that is how your file is going to print out. So now let's save that as a PDF file and place that file. I'm just going to do a normal PDF file here. Next, we're going to go into the soft proofing solution. So this is an online web-based soft proofing solution, and the URL is up here, online.remotedirector.com. And you obviously as a user would have your own login details. So I'm going to log into the system. So it's broken down into a few little areas. First of all, it gives you information about the latest bulletins and service information, support information, user guides, etc., etc., and then some tips and tricks. The main section is broken down into three components here. We have the manage accounts, so you can actually manage your account settings, personal information, etc. We have create a project, so if you are going to book in a new job, that is what a project is, and you can then load into that project your different PDF files, images, or whatever you want to render. And then we have view projects, so anything you've already created you can then view. So I already have some projects already put into the system, so I'm going to go through and then demonstrate what each part of this section is. So when you load a file into the soft proofing solution, you can assign due dates, so therefore you can assign a date when the actual proof has to be signed off, and then these obviously tell you whether you're on target, whether it's due to be signed off, or whether you're overdue. So you can track basically when you should be getting your files done and completed. So these are the two projects that have been created. This one here is blank, but I'm going to work with this one here that says demo. So let's just look at the little icons first of all. So you can delete the project. The little arrow here is to show you the images or the files that are inside that job. So if you created a new project, say it's Richard's test files, and I have 20 PDF files, that would show you the 20 PDF files. This here is the project information, so you can obviously give it some information such as, obviously, let's see what we've got, what the company is, the information, due dates, etc., etc. The next one here, this little person icon here, is whether you want to share that with somebody else. So at the moment I've just got myself in there. I could add another viewer to this, so I can share this with a client. So maybe it's client@demo.com, for example. Click on done, and that will basically apply. Oops, I have to put that in as a color manager. So, and they're not registered, so basically I've got to send them an invite, so that will then send an invite out to that person. Obviously that email doesn't exist, so I'm going to cancel that. So that's how you can attach it to somebody else to come in and view the files that you've created. Okay, so let's just have a look at these files. We have a few PDF files in here already. What I'm going to do here is add a new file. So we add in the test PDF that we created. It's going to ask you if you want to put in a profile. So we've got a standard profile in here. Then if you have your own multicolor profile, just scroll down, go to choose profile, and you'll be able to load that in. I'm just going to demonstrate it with a standard profile here. And you can change the resolution, etc. So it's basically a very simple setup. So click on apply, and then we're going to put the file to upload. So then we can notice down here we've got a processing box here. So the file is going to be uploaded onto the server. It's then going to be processed, and then you'll be able to see the PDF file lined up in here with all the other ones. So depending on how big your file is, depends on how long it's going to take to upload. So if you've got a gigabyte file, make sure you've got a good, fast, high-speed internet connection. So this should be done any moment soon. Okay, once the file has actually been imported, you'll see a little thumbnail for it. You may need to refresh this every now and again. If you do, you can go through these settings here just to go back and reset. So I'm just going to double click, and then what will happen is it will bring up a new, oops, do it quickly, double click the file. It will then bring up a viewing window. So this is where we can actually view the PDF files that have been created. So I'm just going to move this over here. Let's make this a little bit bigger so then we can actually show what's happening. Let's drag this over here so we don't get confused with everything else. Okay, so across the top you'll see the PDFs that are in your project. So I have a few PDF files here. Okay, different PDF files that I've been working on, and the one that I have here. Okay, so now what we're going to do is open Photoshop image that we had open originally, and let's have a look at the difference between those two images. So do you notice anything different about these car image? And let's just move this one. Oops. Remove that one. Sorry, I added another file by accident. I just really want to show you the big difference between the two. So the blue is very, very, very dark blue, and this is almost kind of like a reddish colour. So this is Photoshop on the right, and this is your actual file with the calibrated monitor using the correct profile and our soft proofing solution. So it shows you how the file should print. So let's just get rid of Photoshop again. So this is why we're demonstrating the actual need for it. So now that we're inside the system, we can see we have some different panels and lots of different icons. So let's just run through what each thing does. So down here we have a refresh the project. So basically it'll just update your file for you. You can link and unlink images, and bear in mind you just need to go out and test out all these features for yourself. We're not going to go and demonstrate every single one of them. You can scroll through and open up different PDF files in your list or different images. So clicking on here will cycle through each one of these at the top, or you can just click on them. Then we have the option to rotate the file. We have the option to scale to fit. We have a zoom feature, so you can zoom in and out, as you can see. And then we have a few different options down here. So first of all, we've got a calibrate button. So if you have a hardware calibration device, you can calibrate your monitor. And we do recommend calibrating your monitor, otherwise there's no point in having a soft proofing solution if it's not calibrated. The calibration system has a built-in software, so you don't need specific software at all. It's all taken care of inside the soft proofing solution from Remote Director. It will work with just about every every monitor calibration device out there. So all you need is your hardware device. You don't need the software. Next, we have some options for showing total ink warnings. There's a gamut warning button down here. This gamut warning is not about extended gamut. This is a gamut for your monitor. So if the design is showing areas that are outside the actual color space of your monitor, it will let you know. Then obviously there's a couple other things like emailing the file off to a customer. So with that done along the bottom, now let's pay some attention to these panels here. So let's go to the first icon. So this is your information panel where you can actually specify your profile. So you can obviously load a profile in here if you've not already done so and assign it to a different profile. You can do paper simulations, and obviously you've got settings for different print processes, and then obviously your rendering intent. So little settings in there that you can tweak based on your workflow. Next we have they call it the channels palette, so basically very similar to how Photoshop would work. You can see your CMYK plus the spot colors in this instance, and by moving your cursor over you'll see how these give you ink values based on what you have in your design. We can obviously turn on and off, so you can see how the original image here, and then when we switch on, how that orange has worked, and the same with the blue. We can also turn off other channels if we so wish. Now we can just see the orange and the blue touch plates on their own. Let's turn all those back on. Now, what you also find, you have some other options in here, but these basically are added extras. So they're basically annotation functions, so you can actually mark up your files and do annotations. So these are a premium service, which if you want to have the premium services, you need to go to Remote Director. We've streamlined this to be cost efficient and effective for customers to buy into and use. So this is kind of like a light version of the full Remote Director product. So if you're interested in the more advanced features, you need to contact Remote Director for the latest information on what's capable with this system. I'm just going to go back to these ink dropper tools. This is what we're really focusing on. So down here we have some color palettes. The one we're interested in is Touch7. So these are our spectral based color separations. Now at the moment I have an orange and a blue. Now using these tools I can see what the design will look like using a red and a violet as an example. So let's take that red and drag it and drop it onto where the orange is. I'm going to get the violet and drag and drop where the blue was. And then I click down here to apply. It will then reprocess that file and show me it on the screen with a violet and a red. So the violet makes this blue go a lot more warm because violet's got more magenta into it. And this is why me personally, I prefer to work with a blue ink, especially if I'm working with a digital press or an analog machine where I can use a blue ink, because it makes it much more cleaner, much more vibrant. It doesn't go too warm. However, when you're working with images that are more towards the violet end of the spectrum, using a violet ink makes more sense. And that's why Touch7 has the power to be able to create your separations based on whether you want to output for blue, a violet, orange, green, etc. So we can mix and match. So I've decided I want to actually work with that file back in blue because it looks a lot nicer in blue, and I'll do that back in orange as well. And let that file render. Okay, so that's how this works. I'm now going to close that current image. In fact, actually, let's take another file here. Let's, instead of closing it all down, let's just add a file to the right here. I'm going to close this file on the left, and then I'm going to take this file and pin it. So I can actually put two files up. So if you've got a before and after like I have here, I can actually look at them both side by side, and because they're the same size files, I can actually zoom in and do some quite clever things here. So I'm going to do a comparison between the Touch7 on the left, this is the one with our Touch7 green, and this is the process green. So I'm just going to scroll up so you can see this. So by using Touch7, our image is a lot more vibrant, it's a lot more punchy in colour and saturated compared to the CMYK. Let's have a look at the orange red one. So here I'm using a red touch plate, and you'll see that the red is obviously a lot redder than this one. I could swap that to an orange if I wanted to. And let's go over to this one. And once again, you'll see that the violet is a lot more violet, a lot more saturated compared to the CMYK file. So it's just a great handy way to be able to zoom in and check your files out. Obviously, if you want to close one of the images down, you can just right click and go to close file. So there we have it, the Touch7 soft proofing solution brought to you by Remote Director. If anybody wants any more information on how this works, we have a demo available. So what I'm going to do now is exit out of this viewer by right-clicking Exit Viewer. I'm going to log out, and I'll show you the setup for logging in demo at touch7.co, and it is T7 demo, and we can provide this information to customers. So the Touch7 demo is basically a set of pre-designed files where you can actually log in and play around with this for yourself. So we'll put this information on our web page so you can actually view it. And here you'll see some various files that we've created. Let's take one of these as an example. Yeah, let's use these roses. So again, double click on the file, and these are all things that you can do. There are various things that have been restricted in this demonstration version, and that's because we don't want people playing around with the profiles and messing it up for anybody else that wants to actually play around with these tools as well. So we've done these images so you can see an original image on the top and then a Touch7 Enhance on the bottom. And I think you'll see that, you know, it's very good. Let's just rotate that around so it goes on the screen a bit better. So Touch7 is on the left and then the original image on the right. I can turn that on and off and you'll see the difference. So you can have a little play around if you want to see how this all works. Log into the demo and try it out for yourselves.